Attachment usually enters our lives quietly, wearing the disguise of comfort. It shows up as the things and people that make us feel safe, understood, and whole. At first, it feels nurturing. We lean into a relationship, a role, a dream, or even a self-image because it gives us a sense of stability. It tells us, as long as this stays, I will be okay. But over time, that comfort can shift into something more controlling. Without noticing, we start organizing our emotions around it. Our mood rises and falls based on whether what we're attached to is secure or threatened. This is how attachment slowly turns into control over how we feel. We begin to hand our inner peace to external conditions. If someone approves of us, we feel worthy. If they withdraw, we feel shaken. If things go according to plan, we feel calm. If they don't, we feel anxious. The attachment becomes the manager of our emotional state. What began as a source of support becomes a source of pressure. We stop asking, "How do I feel?" and start asking, "Is this still intact?" And the moment it feels uncertain, our nervous system goes into defense mode. That is not because we are weak, but because we have unknowingly taught ourselves that our safety lives outside of us. When comfort becomes control, freedom fades, and suffering begins to quietly grow. The human mind is wired to seek safety, and one of the ways it does this is by clinging. We cling to people, routines, beliefs, and future plans because they give us a sense of predictability. When something feels familiar, the mind interprets it as safe, even if it is not truly nourishing. So attachment becomes a strategy for survival. It says, if I hold on tightly enough, nothing will go wrong. But life does not work that way. Change is not an interruption to life, it is life. Still, the mind resists uncertainty. It wants guarantees in a world that offers none. So it attaches to identities like, I am successful, I am needed, or I am in control. It attaches to relationships that define who we are. It attaches to outcomes that make us feel secure about the future. These attachments give the illusion of safety, but they also build invisible walls around our experience. The more the mind clings, the narrower life becomes. We start filtering reality through fear of loss. We don't just enjoy what we have, we guard it. We don't just hope for the future. We demand it arrive in a specific form. And when life inevitably changes, the mind interprets that change as danger, not growth. Real safety does not come from gripping life. It comes from learning to meet uncertainty with presence and trust. When the mind loosens its hold, it does not fall into chaos. It finally learns how to breathe. When we hold something tightly, it does not just stay in our hands. It starts shaping how we see the world. Our attachments quietly become the lens through which we interpret every situation. If we are attached to being liked, we read every silence as rejection. If we are attached to success, every delay feels like failure. If we are attached to control, every surprise feels like a threat. What we grasp begins to shape our fears, our expectations, and our reactions before we even realize it. Over time, attachment builds a mental script about how life is supposed to unfold. We stop meeting moments as they are and start measuring them against what we think they should be. When reality matches the script, we feel relieved. When it doesn't, we feel tense, disappointed, or defensive. The suffering does not come from the moment itself. It comes from the gap between what is and what we were attached to. This is why two people can experience the same situation and feel completely different inside. One is open, the other is gripping. One is curious, the other is braced for loss. The difference is not strength or weakness, it is attachment. The more tightly we cling, the more reactive we become. We stop responding from awareness and start reacting from fear. But when we see how our attachments shape our inner climate, we gain a powerful choice. We can begin to loosen the lens and meet life with more clarity, flexibility, and peace. Letting go is often misunderstood as giving up or losing something important. In truth, it is not about abandoning what we care about. It is about releasing the grip we have on how things must be. When we hold too tightly, we turn love into fear, effort into pressure, and hope into anxiety. Letting go is the moment we stop squeezing life and start trusting it. Trust does not mean passivity. It means recognizing that you can show up fully without trying to control every outcome. You can care deeply without needing certainty. You can love without demanding permanence. When we loosen our grip, we do not fall apart. We actually become more stable because our sense of peace is no longer dependent on conditions behaving a certain way. Letting go feels scary at first because the mind equates control with safety. But what it is really doing is learning a new kind of strength. The strength to stay present when the future is unclear. The strength to allow emotions to move without panicking. The strength to meet change without immediately labeling it as loss. This is why letting go is not a loss. It is a return. A return to the part of you that can breathe without constant tension. A return to a life that flows instead of fights. When you trust life instead of gripping it, you don't become careless. You become free. Freedom does not begin with force. It begins with awareness. Before we can loosen our attachments, we have to see them clearly. Most of the time, attachment operates in the background of our lives. It feels normal. It feels justified. We don't say, "I am attached." We say, "This is just how I am." But awareness gently interrupts that story. It asks us to notice what we rely on for our sense of worth, safety, and identity. When you become aware of your attachments, you start to see patterns. You notice what triggers you. You notice where your peace becomes conditional. You notice what you are afraid to lose and how that fear shapes your behavior. This is not about blaming yourself. It is about understanding yourself. Awareness is not a spotlight of judgment. It is a light of compassion. The moment you see an attachment clearly, it loosens its unconscious power. You no longer have to be driven by it automatically. You gain space between the urge and the action, between the fear and the reaction. In that space, freedom begins to grow. Emotional freedom is not about having nothing. It is about not being owned by what you have. And the doorway into that freedom is simple, gentle, and always available.